don't know if anybody has caught NosyJoe's latest motovlog, where he does the Kentucky Adventure Trail Hard 3 trail, which is down around the Cumberland Gap, the Cumberland area, and I was thoroughly engaged. And I'm not an off-road rider, for one. I don't think my body can take the beating of falling from off-road. A couple years ago, me and Pete both we got dirt bikes and we were riding, and quite a few times I'd be off-road and fall, and I wasn't near, I was probably 10 years ago, so I was 50, I was in much better shape. And I was like, ooh, I bruise hard, and you don't heal quick. So I'll give NosyJoe some kudos, because I know how hard bad it hurts when you're our age. I think I'm older than Joe, but our age, and you take a beating off-road, and you also have to be in really good shape to be riding off-road. And you watch Joe's video, he is hauling kapooty. But I liked watching it because I was loving the terrain. My grandfather used to take me down to the Cumberland Gap when I was a little kid. He was fascinated by Cumberland, and he would take me down to the Cumberland Gap to go hiking. He had a little bit of a limp, and of course I know that he had bone spurs, and he actually had them operated on, and he told me when I was a little kid, he told me, never get your bone spurs operated on. The pain afterwards was worse than the pain of having bone spurs. And apparently his bone spurs were so bad that he cut the back of his Converse All-Stars, so that, and he had size 14 feet. And I worry about bone spurs because I get my grandma had arthritis, so I get really sore bones and arthritis, and that's one of them things that freaks me out to think about getting bone spurs. But anyway, he'd carry a cane, and it's really funny because Angus recently bought a cane at a antique store and has been walking with a cane, and I think it's hilarious because it reminds me of my grandfather. My grandfather was tall like Angus. That's the famous brass ass Newport. Anyway, so seeing the terrain that Joe was riding on reminded me of the hiking trails my grandfather would go on with me. And that terrain is very steep and rocky, and lots of tree roots. I remember, you constantly have to watch your footing because you was tripping over tree roots. And of course, grandfather loved the Daniel Boone frontiersman stories, and he would always tell tales of Daniel Boone. There used to be a writer, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, and shame on me. They used to write little short stories about the history of Daniel Boone in newspapers, and it gets syndicated around all the Kentucky newspapers. And I used to love to read, the whole frontiersman story, and of course hiking with my grandfather and being that one of the significant events in your life that you remember as a kid, then you tend to romanticize that sort of stuff. But somebody recently told me that they felt like I was very in touch with my ancestors. And I don't know if I was in touch with my ancestors as much as I'm very aware of what our ancestors went through in the world. And since I'm living right here, I'm in Campbell County, but I am heading in about 30 seconds. We're going to be in Kenton County. Kenton County is named after Simon Kenton, who was Daniel Boone's BFF. And he often doesn't get much notoriety in the modern, frontiersman homesteading stories like Daniel Boone did, because he was not a gentle, peace-loving guy that everybody they kind of make that out to be Daniel Boone. Being kind of go watch this roundabout with the sunlight. I kind of like roundabouts, but You gotta watch the drivers in them. Anyway, Kenton County is named after Simon Kenton, and I'm going to show you the Simon Kenton statue and do a little bit of griping. I don't want to complain because I don't like that complaining karma that people put out there, but I do believe the Simon Kenton statue sculpture should be in Maysville, Kentucky, and I'll explain that later. But when I'm running, this is one of my running routes. I run across this bridge or the next bridge down. This is the Licking River we're crossing over. And I'm always thinking about the settlers that lived here, the frontiersmen that lived here, the Indians that lived here, and the tribes that lived here. And this area, you know, this ground we're sitting on right here is, you know, former hunting territory, you know, right here by the river. Hunting, camping, living. So I'm always thinking, like, when I'm running, like, am I stepping in the very area where, or some ancestor lived and hunted? This is a very rich area. Now, I don't know if you can see that sign. It says residential parking only, permit zone. So all these signs, permit zone, LR at all times. And it kind of gripes my ass a little bit that the Simon Kenton sculpture would be in an area where there would be parking regulations. And I have seen, when I run down here often, I run by the sculpture as like a little bit of karma all the time. We'll go this way, and you see the other sculptures. It's really beautiful houses, and I think all the time, if I could be more abundant. So like and subscribe so I can become more abundant. I would love to live down here in this little neighborhood. I do not need that. I don't need like a mansion. I don't need that either. I can't imagine heating it, but I would like a little house down here to live in this area. I would not see residential parking, $60 tickets, and towing enforced. They're right here on the river. It's a beautiful little corner of the neighborhood of Kenton County, and like these townhouses. See, I could live in these townhouses. A little garage. I could park my motorcycle in. I think I need a G-Wagon though. I think I'm going to drive some domestic vehicle. If I'm going to live down here, I'm driving a G-Wagon. Yeah, I kind of like those. With that house there. This has got a little garage, right? But see here, right here, this is like a really cute little corner of there's the Ohio River, there's Cincinnati down front. You know, right there where the waterfront is, that's where the gypsy camps were. Cincinnati had a gypsy population. And at Spring Grove Cemetery every year, the gypsies come and celebrate their loved ones that's passed. It's kind of a Cincinnati thing that's hardly talked about, but it happens. And, maybe at some point I'll go to the Spring Grove Cemetery this summer. It's very beautiful. I plan on running there anyway. Oh, doggos. Who don't love doggos? But yeah, let's see, I can live down in this neighborhood. I have to be a lot more abundant. So right there is the Simon Kenton sculpture. And let's walk up there too. We're just going to park here and walk up there by it. So this is the Simon Kenton sculpture in Covington, Kentucky, Kenton County. It says, let's see what it says here. Simon Kenton was for whom Kenton County was named, stands for Daniel Boone and George Rogers Clark as a leading figure in the opening of the West. Kenton entered Kentucky in 1771 as a long hunter, gained a reputation for bravery and leadership on the field in the battles that led to the settlement of Kentucky and Ohio. The Shawnee called him Cuttahota, the condemned one. Near the spot in 1782, Kenton agreed with his pioneer soldiers to meet again in 50 years to recall past battles and hardships. However, a cholera epidemic intervened in 1832, and in Kenton's word, the 50-year meeting died before it was born. This sculpture made possible by Mr. R.C. Durr, who was a famous road builder, built interstates. He owned a contracting company. Good. Pioneer and patriot. And as you guys know, I'm a big fan of the Roebling Bridge, and there is the Roebling Bridge right there. So I guess it would be cool to live down here in one of these townhouses and by the Roebling Bridge and the Simon Kenton sculpture. So there's that. See, I think it's important to not just think about the homesteaders and the frontiersmen and you know, the natives, the indigenous that lived here. I think you also have to think when you're riding your motorcycle about your motorcycle riding ancestors, that the roads that they dealt with. Like these roads, these streets are really nice. Of course, it's a nicer neighborhood, but you know, I know that like when you live in New York City, the roads are just bad everywhere because they just can't keep up with them compared to the amount of traffic that goes on them. Come on, guy, what are you doing? Yeah, the Flying Pig Marathon's like a month away, and people are training, and I need to really crack down on my training. I've been giving my hip a break. I lose feeling in my right leg when my hip starts hurting, and it feels like my foot's asleep. So I've been giving it a break, and it actually feels a lot better. But it might be the ibuprofen, and I haven't been giving it a lot of workouts. So you know, and tomorrow when I go for a run, going for a short run tomorrow just to get back into training, it might be a whole different story. See if I can remember how to get over on a rolling bridge. But it's important to think about how rough the roads are and how the lack of equipment and the actual motorcycles that our motorcycle ancestors rode, carburetors, points, no support system, no AAA, motorcycle places that were not motorcycle friendly. Though I'll be honest, last year when I was in Nashville, when we were looking for a place to park, the parking garages, which, you know, we had all our gear for going to New Mexico on, the parking garages had signs that said no motorcycles allowed. And I was very frustrated. We wound up parking on the street, which was still expensive in Nashville because it is, you know, but it was like, guy, I just need a place to safely park my motorcycle with all my gear on it, including my expensive camera. I didn't want to unpack everything just to go walking around and see Nashville, which we did, but still made me nervous the whole time. My bike sitting out on the street. Rolling Bridge, the bridge that sings. That's what they called it when I was a kid. I'm not going too far because I'm still on the plug tire. I'm still waiting for my tire. It's supposed to be here tomorrow from Revzilla, my new tire, to replace my new tire that's got a plug in it. And I stopped at AutoZone and got a bottle of Fix-A-Flat, and I got my plug kit in case the plug was to come out. Like Nick, my motorcycle mechanic, my trusted motorcycle mechanic, Nick Chase, was right when he said, you know, the way you ride, and you know, you really don't need to be riding in a plugged or patch tire, and he's right. I do ride excessively hard. And it's wedding photographer stuff. What the hell? Hello, happy couple. Yeah, to cross the Ohio River would have been an ordeal back in the day. Like, especially, you know, it's not like people were rich and had canoes, and there wasn't, you know, until the Cincinnati really got settled, there probably wasn't even a ferry. It was probably, you know, the black market getting across. Tomorrow is opening day in Cincinnati for Reds, and I'm going to walk over here. It's a mile to the bridge from the headquarters and go to the parade. I've never been to the opening day parade in my life, and I'm kind of ashamed of it. But I don't have to work, and I'm like, I'm going to walk to the parade, and it sounds like fun. And in my opinion, you guys, I don't know if I've ever stated it, Cincinnati is the home of Major League Baseball, in my opinion, and there is no opening day anywhere on the planet until the Cincinnati Reds opening day, because the Cincinnati Reds was the first Major League Baseball team. So there's that. And there is the famous sculpture. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if the DJI will pick it up. There's the sculpture that's in the opening scene of WKRP in Cincinnati. And they've moved it and they've restored it. But anyway, I am mapping out a map of famous places from the series WKRP in Cincinnati, and I'm going to do a motovlog in the future, including my theories of where the characters would have lived in the city. And if I get a chance, maybe I'll hit one of them on the way back out here. The House of Adams Menswear, it's been there since I was a kid. I don't know if it's open anymore, I don't think it is. There's a sign museum in Cincinnati, and which is kind of a unique thing, and I keep meaning to go. And next time my daughter comes to town, me and my daughter are going to go to the sign museum and the firehouse museum. The firehouse museum here is incredible. It's just an amazing museum. I don't know if every city has a firehouse museum, but the one in Cincinnati is incredible. This is the Over-the-Rhine district of Cincinnati, which is original architecture, and it's claimed, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's claimed that there's more original architecture in this section of Cincinnati than there is anywhere else in the country. And there's a Cincinnati Film Commission, and lots of films are filmed here, that like films that's supposed to be set in like the 20s or 30s or turn of the century, something like that, is filmed in this area because they can use the backdrop so easily. And Emilio Estevez is here often. I don't know if he has relatives here or wife or what, I don't know, but we just crossed Central Parkway, and Central Parkway used to be a canal that ran through the city, and all the breweries would use it as water for their breweries. Cincinnati at one point manufactured more beer than any other city on the planet, mostly because it happened during Prohibition, and Cincinnati somehow or another got a pass because they made beer for they made German beer for the soldiers to send overseas, so the soldiers weren't drinking kraut beer. And that's almost like an exact quote. I'm not being racist toward the Germans. And there's all kinds of running clubs in Cincinnati, and they're all training for the Flying Pig. And you go, people. If you trained all winter, it's not so hard to get trained in the spring, but I understand the social aspect of it also. I think I'm not far from a running store, shoe store, and they have running clubs, and I think all the time, I say, oh, I should probably go down there and meet some local runners, because I'm not accustomed to living somewhere where people have running clubs and there's runners. And there was like one other runner I knew where I lived before, and he was an elite runner, and I was like, I really can't keep up with you, guy. And honestly, I don't run for the race aspect of it. I really enjoy just getting out there and running, and the Flying Pig's like the only one that I run. I know you're not supposed to take a left here, and no left turn here. There's the Northside Yacht Club. Sometimes there's bikes there, but we're going to make a U-turn right here illegally because we're on a motorcycle, and that's what motorcycles are supposed to do. Whew, right into the sunlight. It's a nice place. We've been there before. That's an amazing outfit. Todd's Tattoo Parlor was right there. This is Northside Cincinnati, another old part of the city. And Blue Hell Blacksmith Shop used to be out down that street. It was called Blue Hell, and so I think it's called Hell Street, somewhere right there. But I love this old architecture. You know, it's very easy to imagine your ancestors, and the early people that lived here. And while it's romanticized in the movies, you also have to remember, they lived here 365 days a year when it wasn't, nice weather like this. Blue Jay Restaurant has the best BLT sandwiches. I think I need to get my first MFG jacket dry cleaned. I have never been a person to really wash leather jackets. just let them fade and crack and look natural. I like that natural worn jacket, but boy, the white really shows the dirt. So I might try to wash it first and see what happens, but I think I might wind up getting it dry cleaned, which goes against my code of living. And here is the infamous comment right here around the corner. And there's a famous bike night here. It happens on Tuesday nights year-round. And of course, there's no place to park. I think tonight might be comedy night. Yeah, there's no place to park. Well, I'll find someplace else to go, maybe. The camera is picking that up. It is amazing cloud formation right over there on the west side of the city, right around Spring Grove Avenue. Wow. This is going to make me feel old. Speaking of ancestors, as a piece of ancestral history. And this, I'm giving it a little bit away here. But in the series, WKRP in Cincinnati, they could never figure out what Jennifer Marlowe's apartment was, because if you looked out her window of her apartment, it wasn't the Cincinnati skyline, or it's supposed to represent Cincinnati skyline, but it wasn't, and there wasn't no skyscrapers in Newport or Covington at the time, which would have showed the Cincinnati skyline. The mythological is one little place right in front of us, where the building with the blue line across the top of it. That was the first luxury condominium apartment building in Cincinnati back in the day, back in the 70s, and that was the apartment complex that she was allegedly supposed to live in. If you watched enough of her series, that you kind of figured it out that one little place was it, and I think it was the colonel who paid her rent. Yeah, I love that show to death. I'll be doing a motovlog about it, and me and Angus need to go over to the building where the thing was. There actually is a tunnel underneath it, and I run under it every chance I get. Which maybe I'll do it in the morning. I can never remember the name of this bridge. Is it Claywade Burley? I can never remember. Or is that the Yellow Bridge? I never remember. Oh, there's a nice picture of the Roebling Bridge right there. Pay attention, John. Anyway, that's the tour of the historical tour of and talk about my ancestors. Thanks, Joe. And yeah, I'll put Joe's link down below, and watch Joe's off-roading. And I gotta say, man, he's really good off-roading. I'm really envious of his skills, and I'm proud of him. So, yeah. Oh yeah, one more thing. Even though I did talk about wanting to live down there by the Simon Kenton sculpture, because those houses are really cool, and these townhouses here just got built. I think they're $700,000 for both of them. I think it's $250,000 a piece. And you get a view of Cincinnati, and you get to look over Newport, which is a really cool working class town with a lot of rich history, which we'll get to over the coming months. I really rather have a place a little bit out in the county, and where I can put a little bonfire, and the family can come over. I've really enjoyed the kids coming to the headquarters, and as I get older, I enjoy my friends coming over, and it's very nice to have a place that people can come and be at peace. That's really a valuable thing I've found, and I can understand how our ancestors would find the same feeling by settling in this area, to come someplace where you can start a community. And granted, I feel like there's maybe a little bit of magnetism the place on the planet draws people to. Maybe it's something for their upraising and something about the aesthetics of the terrain or the weather. But I get it that there's something to be said about I think I'm drawn to the area because my uncles were from this area. My family were from this area. My uncles partied in Newport a lot because it was a party town when I was a kid. And I believe that feeling, that nostalgia, there might be some kind of magnetism for maybe my body's, my vibrations, is that the thing I'm looking for? My vibrations are in tune with this area. Maybe it resonates. Yeah, I think that's the word. It resonates. But I get it, and I want someplace that my friends and my family who have settled here can come and buy a fire pit and hang out. Get it? All right. Peace out, foes.